The media and politicians have been panicking this week over the chat leak from Pete Hegseth saying,
Trust Jeffrey Goldberg?
Can't even answer the question.
We all make mistakes.
and many more. Lawmakers were interviewed after the article was published, and one started off strong with a typical Asian mom response.
I've long said Mr. Hegseth is not qualified to be Secretary of Defense, and this is yet another example of the fact that the Trump administration continues to play fast and loose with this nation's national security, and somebody needs to get fired.
Another one was questioned, and he gave the most, "My boy got caught cheating, and I have his back" energy.
Was it responsible?
Well, it's a mistake. You know, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and I don't know how it happened. It might have been, a communication problem with somebody in the communications department. But, you can't put just blame on just one person, other than the fact that the person in charge of that is the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. He'll get it corrected.
As you might have seen, Trump held a press conference after the article was published and gave the most Trump response ever.
Discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
With the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
CNN had a U.S. ambassador on who was part of the Trump team the last time and asked a straight-to-the-point question. His response seems hopeful.
Sir, do you think that Trump administration officials broke the law when they had this Signal chat?
You know, I don't know enough about it, but I'll tell you this, just like Donald Trump isn't going to fire anybody, whether they deserve to be fired or not, unless he feels the heat personally, I have zero faith that this Justice Department will prosecute anybody.
The man of the hour commented and quickly started shitting on Goldberg. But he even started calling out some other stories that turned out to be false.
Because of the skill and courage of our troops, I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish.
Therefore, he set the record straight.
Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
The man who left the group chat on red came out the gate setting the record straight.
Saying that nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw it?
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans.
He was shocked and bamboozled. Thought he was being catfished by a big booty Latina. But it was real. Pete Hegseth had sent him the information before the attacks, but he gave more shocking information about the number of people in the chat.
Because why would they do it on Signal? Why would they do this on a messaging app? And why would they invite the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic to watch?
And how many people were on this chat?
18.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
CNN had a panel on to discuss and started off looking a little panicked over everything. Even commented on this being a larger systemic issue.
Of accountability. How are we going to deal with this? It's not something that should just go away in the news cycle tomorrow. It is something that should be investigated. It should be investigated with oversight. And I have the real question I think we should be thinking about is who is doing the investigating of the investigators?
But it didn't just stop there. Scott Jennings got defensive and shut down. A reporter on his comment about war plans.
What does it say that our Secretary of Defense, who leads the largest employer in the entire world, 2.9 million people, and who oversees the best fighting force in the world, was willing to share war plans on a text message app?
Well, there is a dispute about the nature of war plans between Hegseth and Goldberg, and I haven't seen what the texts look like, and neither have you, and so we'll let them fight that out.
Therefore, the CNN host decided to intervene and tried to call out Scott, Jennings didn't stop backing his boys.
Like capital W, capital P here.
I don't know.
They confirmed the authenticity of all the exchanges there, which included targeting information, personnel, weapons being used. That seems like, at a minimum, lowercase w, lowercase p war plan, yes? A plan for carrying out a military action.
Sure. I mean, obviously some details were being shared in the moment that it was occurring. But again, we don't really know because...
Ned called out the officials for not being responsible. The host of MSNBC Plus quickly shut him down.
I think the irony in all of this is that one person seems to have really practiced good operational security in all of this, and it's no one in government. It was Jeffrey Goldberg. It was the reporter who didn't report on the most classified details.
So, because Jeffrey Goldberg now has on his, I'm sure not government-protected phone, lots of operational details, including potentially sources and methods. He talks about how one of the members who was designated a point of contact, this is the one for the CIA, he did not name because this person is currently operational, meaning that their identity shouldn't be out there. But now Jeffrey Goldberg has it in his possession.
The Republican cuck himself, Ted Cruz, went on ABC, LGTV Plus, and was asked about the leak. But he redirected the conversation from the beginning.
Curious why Schumer and the Democrats are not concerned about the fact that for the last 4 years, the Houthis have been allowed to engage in terrorism against America, against America's allies, to drive up costs for consumers. Look, that terrorism makes shipping through the Suez Canal much, much more expensive, which means Americans, when you go to the grocery store and department store, you're paying more money because Joe Biden and the Democrats were not willing to stand up and defend America.
But the host called out Cuck Cruz on his opinions on the Hillary email scandal, thinking it would shut him down. But he backed his boys.
We're obviously fiercely critical of Hillary Clinton and her handling of classified information on a private email server, calling it grossly negligent. If we were on your podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz, would you call this grossly negligent?
Well, listen, it was clearly a screw-up. It was obvious that including Jeffrey Goldberg was inadvertent, and that was a mess, and an embarrassing mess. But I will say there's a big difference in that immediately the Trump White House took responsibility. They said this was genuine, this was a real exchange, and it was a mistake. And that taking responsibility, that was the right thing to do.
The DEI couch over at Fox News had a different opinion on this thing and started to shit on the reporter. But surprisingly got some pushback from the couch.
I don't trust Jeffrey Goldberg. The last time I sat on the couch with you guys, he had the ridiculous story about Vanessa Guillen. He had the suckers and losers. He is not a credible reporter. And how does this most horrific of all reporters in Washington, D.C.
Using Signal, they all use it. They're not supposed to, but they use it.
But not for top secret stuff.
They use it. CIA, every single intelligence agency uses Signal. I know that for a fact. I talk to them on Signal. They're sources of mine. They all use Signal.
But Brian had to reel it back in and do what he's supposed to.
Right. It's a highly sensitive time. They obviously thought they were just talking to each other. The context of it, the pushback from J.D. Vance on the operation is fine. I have no problem with that.
Yep.
If you could respect somebody and have a different opinion, people have hung up on that. Where you stand is one thing. Obviously, to me, it was a mistake.
Ronnie Ching said something we all were thinking when the chats got leaked.
I personally have chats that are actually more sensitive than a missile attack on the Houthis, okay? If you told me that my group chats leaked and then told me it was just my missile attack one, I'd be like, oh my God, thank God, thank God.
But he had to point out the contradicting message from the Republicans and Fox News.
Right. So this reporter who is dishonest and sucks is also correct. And also, we added him to our group chat because he's a fun hang. I mean, you can't use it was a mistake and it was fake news. You got to pick one, okay? You got to get together and figure it out, okay? But not in a group chat. No more group chats.
Crying Jimmy Kimmel Live shockingly agreed with Pete Hegseth on one thing.
Other than Hillary Clinton, they would be in jail right now.
Correct.
For what has been done. Because the assumption is in the intelligence community, if you are using unclassified means, there is the potential for and likelihood that foreign governments are targeting those accounts and gathering intelligence from them.
Very well said. Case closed. We rest, Your Honor.
Now, one person who was in the chat got questioned hard about the leaks, but refused to answer directly. Senator Mark Warner completely loses it and questions Tulsi Gabbard about the leaks while visibly shaking. But Tulsi Gabbard bobs and weaves.
There was no classified material that was shared in that
So then
signal
if there was no
check.
classified material, share it with the committee. You can't have it both ways. These are important jobs. This is our national security. Bobbing and weaving and trying to, filibuster.
Stephen Colbert even freaked out over the hire of these people.
Posting war plans on Signal may have violated several provisions of the Espionage Act, and the Signal app is not approved by the government for the sharing of classified information. And the only reason we know that they were doing any of this is because they accidentally included a journalist. What else are these merit-based hires posting? Where else? What are they doing? Where else?
He even surprisingly agreed with the White House on one thing.
One person close to the administration told Politico, everyone in the White House can agree on one thing: Mike Waltz is a f***ing idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, please, no one takes this out of context. I agree with everyone in the White House. Hey guys, add me to the chat. You won't even know I'm there.
But he lost it after Pete Hegseth shitted on Goldberg.
Why was he on the war planning group chat? Why was he in the chat? This guy's an idiot and everyone hates him. You're the guys who put him in the chat. You did. He's a moron. Okay then, don't put him in the secret chat if he's a bad guy. Why is he in the chat?